Happy New Year. This is our first Soul-u-tions podcast that we are recording in 2026 and have a very special guest for you. He has been the most popular guest of all time on the Soul-u-tions podcast, and I thought we would kick off our first recording of 2026 with him. So I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to listen to the introduction, and I will reveal the big surprise on the other side.
Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
Well, I hope everyone had a fabulous holiday. Today's guest is the famous, infamous Brennan Simkins, also known as the Great Brinkowski, is one of his many nicknames. But Brennan is my middle son. I talk about him all the time on the podcast, and he is in his senior year at the College of Charleston. And this past fall, he had the opportunity to take a class taught by Ben Navarro, who is a very successful businessman and philanthropist in Charleston. He is also the father of Emma Navarro, who is a very successful women's tennis player in her own right. And Ben, a couple of years ago, approached the president of the College of Charleston. He said, "Hey, I'd love to teach a class." And the president said, "Well, what are you going to teach?" And Ben said, "I don't know. I'll get back to you on that." And he came back to him, and he teaches his class, which he calls Intentionality. He has developed with his assistant, Andrea. What is Andrea's last name?
Kindroff, I believe. I may have mispronounced her last name, but I believe that's her last name.
Okay. They've developed an intentionality curriculum. He has taught it. This was his third semester, I guess, teaching the class at the College of Charleston.
Third or fourth, something like that.
And since teaching this class, it has become such a hit. It's taught in the entrepreneurship school, and you have to be nominated by someone who's been in the class before. And once you're nominated, you are invited to submit an application. And then from the applications, people are invited to come for an interview. So Brennan went through all of these steps, and he was accepted into the class. And he has now finished taking the class. But to say that it has been a life-changing experience, would that be an understatement, Brennan? Or
I wouldn't say that high, but it has definitely changed the way I think things about life, at everyday activities, school, purposeful, how you do things, I guess. So I wouldn't say quite life-changing, but not quite, just underneath it, I would say.
But maybe life impacting or something
exactly.
like that.
Impactful, very impact.
Impactful.
Like you said, yeah.
Yes.
Life impacting.
I don't know. I totally made that phrase up. And not just for you, but for everyone who's taken the class. So many of the students have come back to Ben and said, "I miss the structure of the class. I miss the community of people in the class." And in coming back to him and talking about this, I don't know, this void in their life after taking the class that they missed, they came up with and launched a new club at the College of Charleston called the Intentionality Club. And they have opened a center with an executive director so that more people at the college can participate and learn the tenets that they teach in the class. So Brennan, over Thanksgiving, we had a bunch of family in town, and they said, what have you been doing, Brennan?
And they will ask about the class, and it's different between a history class when you say, oh, we're studying the Napoleonic Wars right now, but it's kind of ask more detailed questions about, well, how's your class going? But it's kind of broad in the sense where we aren't covering one topic like something you would in history class or math. I guess just about every other class you're covering a certain topic, but it's kind of hard to narrow down one certain topic because there's not really one thing we stay focused on for so long, I guess, so to say. Like if you're studying for a quiz, then you study one certain thing, then you have the quiz, but there's not really anything similar to that, I would say, in the class.
Yeah.
Instead of quizzes or assignments, we have different challenges that we have to do. For instance, rejection challenge, get out of your comfort zone. There was probably have a bunch of them written down, but I don't know how long you can.
You could do it. Well,
Yeah.
How about this? I just suffice it to say that Brennan took out this notebook that he's looking at here, his journal, and he commanded the attention of the entire family for well over an hour. Everybody from his cousins who are also in college to his aunts and uncles and his grandmother were so impressed by both the subject matter and Brennan's takeaways from the class. And anybody who we are going to dinner with or wherever we are and we start to talk about it, people always say, that's the class. Oh my gosh, could I take the class? Can I enroll in the class? Brennan's response to that is, well, if you're at the College of Charleston, you could potentially take this class. However, if you are a woman in midlife living anywhere in the world, you could enroll in one of my mother's Soul-u-tions classes. I laugh about it because what has brought me such great joy is that the topics that were discussed in Brennan's Intentionality class are exactly the same topics that we talk about here on the podcast all the time and the topics that we cover in the Soul-u-tions labs. And what has really impressed me is, of course, you as a listener of the podcast, I know that you love this subject matter, and I know that the work that we do here is so meaningful. And it's so affirming and validating for Brennan to go take this class and just to see the same work reach other people. And I think it just goes to show that we are on to something here. And I thought that you would appreciate hearing some of the tenets through another, perspective, which is Brennan's and his teacher, Ben Navarro's perspective. So Brennan has brought with him his journal. And let's just start, Brennan, with talking about what is in your journal and the role that the journal played in the class for y'all.
Well, kind of the main thing is, so we were given a journal at the beginning of class, and so we were kind of pretty much the thing we did the whole semester was journaling. And so one of them was we'd have a pre-class and post-class journal entry. And so the topic would be whatever, and then you would journal about it. So the first topic for the first class was named Write About a Challenging Part in Your Life. So I guess I kind of checked off the box for that one. And so I journaled about it, and then that would be the assignment. And then during the next class, classes usually would go on. We would have first off, we would have a guest speaker, then they'd talk about something, and then we would break. And that's when we would do the rest of class. And so during that latter part of the class, that's when he would call on probably between 3 to 5 students to read their journal entries just to share it with the class. And I guess doing that, it kind of puts some people at a vulnerable spot because some people just may not like reading in front of a whole group of people, not confident in sharing their stories if they're kind of personal. But it was definitely give us kind of a, maybe you wouldn't know that person very well, but actually just thinking about it right now, it kind of a sense of I wouldn't say inclusion or community within the class. And so that's what we'll journal about. Then we have a post-class one, which typically may be about what the guest speaker said, what you got, like, for instance, like some of them we had challenges, and then you would write about the challenge, what you thought about it. And then there was other journaling was we were given a list of books, and I have them down, Mom, if you want me to tell your followers what those books were.
Well, I actually, Brennan, you are reading my mind, because I do want you to share the book list, because I know how everybody who listens to the Soul-u-tions podcast, it's a really avid group of readers. But before you do that, you find that, bookmark it if you found it. But I was wondering, would you be willing to share with us your answer to that first journal question?
Right.
Because I understand that you were called to answer that first question in class. So maybe you could share a little bit about that with us.
Find it, and I can do that for you. So like I said, the prompt was name a challenging part in your life. And so on our electronic courseware thing, we would say that would give us the prompt, and then we'd have to scan it and then turn it in via the thing. And I'm glad they made us write it out versus typing it. I like to do notes in class, typing it, because it's easier, faster to do it. But I guess it's, some people say, and I guess you probably say, like, you learn more about when you actually write it down. So,
I remember your big aha, because you did a lot of this when you were at home over the fall because of your starting seizures and things in the fall. And so you did a lot of the homework in the back room in our den while I was doing my work on. And I just remember that first kind of aha for you about writing, because I don't think you really have ever kept a journal on your own. And you probably don't handwrite as many things. Your generation doesn't.
With my calendar, I like to have it on the online, because I've not really good like, it's kind of I don't have the practice of going back and looking at it. I like having the reminder of when it dings on your phone versus, because with my memory stuff, sometimes it's hard to remember, I got to go look back in my calendar and remember it. But journaling was definitely something I enjoyed. I hope I didn't interrupt what you were saying.
No, you didn't. But I wanted to get to that point. You were surprised by how much you enjoyed journaling.
Yeah.
And the process of writing. And I remember you said it makes you slow down. It makes you think through things in a different way. So hope out there for all the parents.
Yeah, so this first part, I have some notes from class, and then there's a couple things that stood out, and then I have the entry.
Let's read the first prompt and your entry.
It looked like the first one was talking about happiness in a sense, and so talked about our objectives in class. And some things about, like, when you want to change your life, you have to defeat your former self in order to change.
That's really interesting as we're sitting here in January, when people are thinking about new year, new you, and making resolutions. The idea that you have to say goodbye to an older version of yourself in order to say hello to the newer version?
Yeah, and then if you're the people out there wondering what exactly intentionality means, because it's kind of it's a word that may not be used a lot, and so a lot of people ask me that question, and I'm like, I don't remember. So, it is the act of being deliberate or purposeful. If you want to go somewhere slow, just go somewhere fast. You have to go slow.
Right, let's just pause there.
Okay.
So intentionality is the act of being
deliberate or purposeful.
Okay. And
probably
so
both, I would say.
The idea behind this class is how to live an intentional life.
And whether it not be just life, I would say be work, school, just kind of, I guess, life in general, and the things that go along with it.
And so I think the premise is that when you bring a sense of deliberateness to your life, a sense of, what was the other word?
Deliberate
And
purposeful.
When you bring a sense of deliberateness to your life and you bring a sense of purpose to your life, that's what it means to live an intentional life. And
then another thing I think I'll mention here is that a great life is when you're within your grasp, but it's just up to you to take that opportunity. Because I think a lot of people sit around and think, because some people may, because obviously he and his daughter are quite successful.
Yeah.
And instead of thinking that, oh, poor me sort of thing, it's like, well, it's up to you to go do those certain things to grasp your life, because he was actually, even though he's so successful right now, he's actually was listed, I guess, in your yearbook.
Right.
You were talking about this. I don't remember what you said you were, but anyways, he was listed most likely, least likely to succeed in life was his yearbook.
Non-superlative.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So that made an impact on him. Wow. Okay, I'm going to take that in for a second. Ben Navarro was listed as the least likely to succeed in his high school class. Interesting. And now he is someone...
Let's hope they don't mind us talking about this.
Did you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement?
Fortunately, I didn't have to sign an NDA. At least I don't remember doing that.
Okay. But I think that he shares that because he wants people to believe in themselves or to take some type of I don't know, hope from his own story of how do you go from being this person to being someone totally different. All right.
And the next page talks a little bit about happiness. And it's one thing I didn't really know was that you're apparently not naturally happy because your genes don't care about being happy, and happiness does not come on its own. And it's just the equation, that's it. For happiness is enjoyment plus satisfaction plus purpose.
Very good. Well, I think that is an important takeaway because I remember you telling me that, and then you invited me to a fireside chat with Ben, and he talked about this, how as human beings, we're not wired for happiness. I think I've shared this with you on the podcast over the fall, but I can remember, Brennan, when I was about your age, and then about 10 years later. So, my early to mid 20s, and then again in my mid 30s, I got to this point in my life where I wasn't happy. And I thought, well, if I'm not happy, I must have missed a class along the way, that I must have failed at doing the thing that all humans want, which is to be happy. I would have it would have saved me so much inner turmoil and angst and feeling of like I was a failure if someone had told me at your age that, hey, you're not wired for happiness. If you want to be happy, you have to seek out these, what are those 3 areas again?
Enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose.
Okay, you have to figure out a way to
enjoy it is the first.
Yeah, to enjoy your life.
I don't know if they one goes before the other, but in the equation, enjoyment, satisfaction, and purpose, I guess once you accomplish those 2, then the purpose happens afterwards, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was listening to another.
One that comes before the other.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast yesterday, Rich Roll, who's one of my favorite podcasters, and he was talking to a guest about that. I don't know that there's a right way. One has to come before the other, right? I think that it's whatever each of us naturally may be drawn to one of those 3 areas, and I would just go with one of those 3 areas and then build on it with the other 2. That's what I would say, Brennan.
Yeah, and then another one that you probably, I can definitely see the life coaching aspects of some of this stuff, because I guess some people like kind of going back to one of the things, in order to get somewhere, you got to go slow. I guess some people are just focused on how do you get there right now. And like a great life takes time. And the one thing we talked about, I don't know how many people have out there watched Saving Private Ryan, but at the end of the movie, hopefully I'm not spoiling it for anybody, but there's this last battle at the end of it, and that's kind of looking like the Americans may not win the battle, but finally reinforcements kind of come at the end, and they end up winning the battle. And so Tom Hanks' character is fading, and Matt Damon, Tom Hanks was ordered, or his, not orders, or I guess his objective was to go save Matt Damon's character. And so at the end, he says to Matt Damon, earn this. And so kind of maybe I didn't really understand it at the time, but I guess it's like if you're given an opportunity, really earn it. I guess you were given the opportunity, so make sure you earn. I don't know if it's making a lot of sense to you. If you want to elaborate on it.
Yeah, that is, Brennan. I love that. Like your quote says, "A great life
takes time."
And earning the gift of your life, right? I think that's two things are true thing. Like life is 100% of a gift. We're given this life. I was actually teaching about the concept of grace today in the Soul-u-tions labs, and they're like, one of the principles of grace is that it's undeserved, it's freely given, but there is a pleasure element to the fact that, hey, I understand that this is a privilege, and I want to spend my time here that I've been gifted through grace, feeling like I'm making a difference in some way, right? Feeling like I earned it, that's something that is a human pleasure. Is that what you're saying, Brennan? Like earn it, like really respect it, understand it's a privilege.
Yeah, I guess
value it.
I kind of going like through challenges about poor me, instead of thinking about that. And once you get through it, you'll earn the opportunity to have gone through it, accomplished what your objective was or whatever. So I guess we kind of got distracted there.
That's okay.
But if
always
you still
like
want
it.
me to read the my first journal entry and what I was.
I'd love it, Brennan.
All right. So like I said, the prompt for the entry was write about a challenging part in your life. And so I said, so far, wait, that's not it. Sorry. Okay. The defining event has to be my journey with pediatric cancer. It has definitely impacted the way I do things and how regarding values. And that was values, habits, mental, physical wellness, and relationships must have been something to do with the prompt. Anyways, how it has is the treatment I receive. Pardon me if there's a lot of grammatical or what's the word? Like if you're if there's words that shouldn't go there, spell check. So anyways.
There's no spell check in your journal.
No, unfortunately not. Anyways, how it has is the treatment I received. My treatment and the side effects it has on my body makes my life different than anyone on campus. But I'm aware of that, and like talking about it, it has to do with college. But I'm aware of that, and I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me for what all I've been through. It has also given me a different way to look at life and understanding that other people have had challenges. Well, it's just up to you to listen to other people and not just assume that you're the only person who's had to face obstacles. I feel alive to tell my story and to give people hope about life, that no matter how hard it is, there's always good things to take away from your journey along the way. What I'm willing to die for, my family values, as well as my country, if the time is called, where I need to stand up, both rise, I'm willing to accept that. To go further into detail about those events, how toxic my treatment impacts my life, I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but it does on who I am as a person. I need to take medicine for certain things, as well as pay attention to my diet, how much exercise I get, as well as my mental health. But in saying that, I accept how these affect me, and I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. And I remember that was always something like when I was going through treatment about, I think even for most kids, I think that's having this side of it and going to St. Jude back for my annual appointments or something. I think that's the last thing they want the kids to think. They're like, kids are kids. They're supposed to live life. And that's,
Play,
yeah, I think
fun.
St. Jude does a really good job of distracting the kids about they don't want the kids to know, oh, things are not great right now.
Right.
And that was always something that I hated while I was going through treatment, about people feeling sorry for me or like treating me different. It's like, they're just trying to be kids over there, so there's no point really treating them differently. So I guess that's kind of what I wrote about.
That's it. I think I know that you've read that passage to a number of people who've known you your entire life and who were there next to you when you were, golly, Brennan, it's hard to believe. I was just thinking about this the other day. So you were diagnosed on January the
20th, maybe 21st?
No, you were diagnosed
On my birthday?
on your birthday. So you were diagnosed on January 20th of 2009, and here we are, January of 2026. So that was 17 years ago. So you have people who have known you that long and been by your side. And I remember, so I had just gotten back from a retreat with my first life coach that between Christmas and New Year's of that 2008 year. And she had taught me this tool called the drama triangle. And in the drama triangle, it's
was it
like,
08 or 09?
08. You were diagnosed in 09, but this was December of 08.
My bad.
And so in the triangle, there are three roles that people play. You're either the victim, or you're the perpetrator, the bad guy, or you're the rescuer. And she said, if you're living in the drama triangle, there's always one of those positions that attracts us. Like some people are naturally attracted to the victim role. Some people are naturally attracted to the perpetrator role. And some people are naturally attracted to the rescuer role. I was like a rescuer. That was my role. But once you get into the drama triangle, the terms of that contract, that social contract, is that you will play all of the roles. So if you come in as a rescuer, the next thing you know, you're all of a sudden the bad guy, and then you're the victim. And so you were diagnosed, and I remember thinking, okay, whatever happens, I just want to make sure that Brennan is not going to be the victim of childhood cancer. Like, cancer was not going to be the perpetrator in your life story that would require you needing to be rescued from your story. And so there is another option from the drama triangle, and it's called the empowerment triangle. And instead of a victim, you have what we call a co-creator. That's a person like what you're talking about, Brennan, who has the ability to seize the opportunities in their life. And instead of a bad guy or perpetrator, you have a challenge, right? A challenge or challenger. So wanted to make sure that cancer was something that was framed in your life as a challenge, but not having as much power over you as a perpetrator. And then you have a coach instead of a rescuer. And that's someone who comes alongside you and can encourage you or guide you or be a mentor. Like, you even see this empowerment triangle is also, you could see it in the hero's journey.
Yeah, that's one thing we talk a lot about is, I guess it had to do with, I don't remember the hero's journey too much, but one thing maybe had to do with, one quote I think about a lot is from the class was when we talked about the Teddy Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena.
Yes.
I can't remember if that.
Yeah, share that.
If that had to do much with the hero's journey or not. I probably journaled about it. That was one of my ones I thought I did. My favorite journal entry I did was But if you can keep talking it while I find it. If you want
Okay,
to.
yeah. So in the hero's journey, we see that played out from Star Wars, from Harry Potter, from Odysseus, and the Odyssey. But each of us in our lives, and I think this is what the idea of living intentionally is that to become your own hero or heroine of your life, there are going to be challenges, and to allow those challenges to help shape you, right? You can co-create who you want to be. The challenges are part of that, and you will always be given guidance, invisible and visible helpers that we like to say that way, to help shape you, but instead of defeating you in your life. And I think that many people who listen to this podcast, Brennan, may be aware of that Teddy Roosevelt quote because Brene Brown used it to inspire the title of her book, Daring Greatly. And so if you remember the quote, it's about the man in the arena.
So the man in the arena is for those who don't know, I hope most people out there know it, is I don't remember what the scenario had to do with Teddy Roosevelt, but I just took a snippet out of it. So the whole man in the arena quote is, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat." And so one of the things that we kind of talked about a lot is when you take criticism from people, because sometimes when you're in college, it can happen a lot. Because we talked about a man in the arena. It's like you only really listen to those people who are in the arena, because it seems like criticism from people always, whether it be negative or positive, especially the negative, is kind of hard to understand. And it's like also from one of the books, it was kind of also ties into this whole thing about
stimulus and response.
No, being offended is a choice.
That's right. Yeah. That was a big takeaway for you, Brennan. Yeah. It's like being offended is a choice.
And it's like, I think that's kind of hard for some people to understand. It's like it's not a natural feeling. It's like, are you really going to choose to feel this way about what someone says? Obviously, you may disagree with it, but are you going to take it so far to say, to be offended by it? Anyways. Mm-hmm. So what I journal about, it must have fallen out. The man in the arena means to me a leader who has done the things they preach about, not someone who talks a big game but has never faced the music, or the person that always puts you down because they think they know what they are talking about. I never try to listen to either one, but when they are talking, the latter one tends to get on my nerves a lot. I have definitely been through a lot when I was a child, but putting myself in the arena after 3 lapses and facing the music when my time came, but now later in life I haven't been or put myself into many situations like I did when I faced them as a kid. I guess the main reason is because I never saw them coming. Much like how the 101st Airborne didn't know what they were facing at Bastogne. You don't listen to the odds, you just get through it. But at this point in my life, I need to try hard things. Obviously not to that extent, but like the speech says, he who puts himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement. So putting myself out there, try new things. Anyways, it kind of mentioned after I read that, when I take criticism for people, I always make this the person that do I want to really impact my life or not? Like,
Yeah. Is this person in the arena?
Yeah.
Or are they just Monday morning quarterbacking, calling into the talk show, to the Paul Feinbaum show and saying something about how they should have called the play differently during the game, right? I think that's the definite, very common experience of not being the man in the arena today. Yes.
Yeah.
But for you as a kid who's a senior in college, the fact that that quote is something that has been very meaningful for you at this point in your life, and that it is inspiring you and informing you as you think about leaving college?
Yeah, I guess, or that, and to people who are trying to, because obviously one thing we talked about a lot was when it comes to hearing not confronting someone's opinion. For instance, like if you're on the golf course and there's 6 different people trying to give you an opinion, or life and other things. It's like, I got it. I know you're trying to help me out, but it's like consulting someone's opinion isn't bad, but if you get way too many answers, it gets confusing and sometimes irritating. I guess I can say that from experience.
Yes. Yeah.
But in that sense of like, I guess like if someone's trying to tell you what to do after college or giving you suggestions, is like choosing about if they're just really going to impact you in the sense of, yeah, I should do this job or something like that. I think I may have gone off topic there.
No, but I think you are touching on I'll call it a sister topic, just that just is a next door neighbor topic to this man in the arena topic. And it's one that I think that you've been leaning into a lot, is this idea of having your own personal board of directors of people whose opinion you've pre-qualified them, right? In some sense that you say, okay, this person is part of my board of directors. If they have an opinion to give me, I'm going to stop, listen to their opinion. I'm going to give it some weight and consideration. And then you have people who don't serve that role in your life and who offer their opinion up to you. And oftentimes that opinion can be a criticism, right? Or a disagreement in some way of how you are choosing to do things. And I have heard you, since taking this class, over and over as you are walking through that, how much weight to give that opinion, you end up coming back to this, are they in the arena? If not, are they part of my board of directors? Yeah. And I think you're finding a lot of help. We were just talking about that in connection with some feedback you received through somebody that was, in an advisory capacity.
Not trying to keep beating a dead horse in our life, but I thought it would be something interesting, the board of directors thing, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Like they might be in an advisory role in your life or have some place of authority, but they may not
be in your...
That doesn't necessarily mean they're on your board of directors. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's been a really important thing that I think that if you're Brennan's age or any age, I think that's a really important thing to remember as you're listening to people's opinions. All right, Brennan, I want to say you had so many things in this class that were really important. I think that these challenges that you mentioned, there was a rejection challenge that you touched upon. There was a get out of your comfort zone challenge.
Bored to tears was one of them.
You're bored to tears.
Where we had to sit in a public place for an hour, no tablets, no nothing, no journal, no books. Just observe.
Just be bored to tears. There was a face your fears challenge.
Yeah, that was one we did as a class where we went into a snakes and critters thing at this wellness center and just snakes, spiders, other
Yeah.
different sorts of bugs. I don't mind snakes all that much, but I didn't go really near the tarantulas or the spiders and such.
Well, I think each of those challenges are important challenges for people to
yes, one of them, which another quote
yeah.
back then is like, you don't overcome your fears, you learn to live with them.
Ah.
So it's like, how is this going to live with this, accept it, and live with it? So
And not be afraid of it.
yeah.
Because when you're afraid, you hide or you run or
Yeah.
you avoid, right? And those aren't very adaptable ways of dealing with our fear in our life. All right. So I know there's a book list. I don't know if you're close to that.
Got it right here.
Okay. So let's share this book list, because I think if you're the beginning of a year and you're thinking about, gosh, what could I do to help support myself as I move forward in this year, either for yourself or for your kids or someone else in your life, this is a great book list.
American Redemption Story was Tim Scott, the the U.S. Senator from South Carolina, who's from North Charleston. He came in, talked to the class, who I really enjoyed his talk. And so typically with the books, you didn't have to read all of it. There were just certain passages, and then there were some that you kind of chose to read all of it. So that was the first one. Coddling the American Mind was the one.
Can you repeat that a little slower for people? Because,
yes, ma'am.
okay.
American Redemption Story was the first book.
Right.
Like I said, written by Tim Scott.
I got that one, but the second
one is Coddling the American Mind was my favorite. Well, this one I'm reading now, I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Is probably the one I enjoyed the most, which I think a lot of people should read, especially with this day and age. It kind of talks about coddling the American mind, where
I'm sorry, just
coddling
of the American mind, and that's by Jonathan Haidt and another author as well. Okay, keep going.
Again, this is an old one. I think a lot of your followers may have read this one.
Or their parents suggested, yes.
How to Win Friends and Influence People, which kind of...
Dale Carnegie, which there was one thing that kind of reminds me of your dad, Pat, my grandfather a lot, is the most interesting person in the room will talk to anyone. Yeah.
And once I read that quote, I'm like, that reminds me a lot of my grandfather. Aww. Because he would go talk to anybody. He had a lot to say. And in about, 2 years now? And I think we're all missing him. And I didn't read this one because I don't really remember the topic. Outlived by Peter Attia and Bill Gifford. And Bill Gifford was actually somebody who... spoke.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you did. That book was interesting. So for all of you, he's the longevity expert right now, Dr. Peter Attia. And that's a pretty dense book, and it's a bit autobiographical. He talks about coming to these longevity principles. But in that book, I remember this, Brennan, because you only had to read the very last chapter or the epilogue of the book. And so the entire book is about medical metrics of things that you can do to increase your longevity, 10,000 steps a day, eating protein, lifting weights, like all these things. But the epilogue was about your mental health. And he said that was your mental and emotional health was more important, and your relational health was more important and more determinative of your quality of life and your health span than all these other things. So that I thought was kind of a cool thing to read.
And then the second last, I feel like there was more, but when I emailed Andrea, these were the
big ones.
The 6 that she emailed me, the titles. I guess I lost a lot of my books along the way. And the one I'm reading this is the one I have next to me, is The Defining Decade. And it talks about why your 20s matter. and you make the most of them. And one kind of main thing it mainly talks about is identity capital. And so it's like when people show someone their resume, it just says, college, year they graduated, this is what they majored in, this is the classes they took, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And so it talks about what is something that it's going to make you stand out. Like after being home for this break, I was really thinking about my little brother, Christopher, who's done a lot of work with Brandon Brewer. He is a tree removal guy in Augusta, where obviously during the hurricane, he had a very, very busy job during the hurricane. And so Christopher in high school, he worked for him as a, I don't know, if just to help her. I don't know if he helped him with the removing. I know he chopped some firewood, a lot of his loose firewood, a lot of his loose wood that was just there, I guess. And he made some firewood, but I feel like this is really going to set him out to be different when it comes to a job interview, because not a lot of kids is going to say, because I guess tree removing job is not really a typical job. It's kind of a different job. And so I really think it's going to set Christopher apart to say, oh, tell me about this job that you did in high school. And he still helps out a little bit. Would you say that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so,
but I do love that idea, identity capital, that there's something about you, right? You're making choices that are making deposits into.
Yeah, like the woman who wrote the book, she did kayak the Okefenokee Swamp, because that's one thing about it is it's a little bit of a conversation starter since it's different.
Yeah.
Because it says, so tell me about this thing that you did, and it's going to be a conversation starter versus just reading, this person graduated from this school this year, this is their GPA, this is the classes they took, and that's about it.
Well, I think that's a great book. Elizabeth Elliott, who's one of the coaches that coaches inside the Soul-u-tions Labs with me, and she's been a guest on the podcast before. She teaches people in your age group, Brennan, and that is one of her favorite books. So if you are in your 20s, or if you have kids or grandkids or friends in your 20s, that book is well worth reading for everybody.
And then the last book, like I said, I didn't read this one either. I may or may not have read some of the assigned reading that we were supposed to read. All of it. Anyways, The Anxious Generation was the last book. I guess it has to do...
It's another Jonathan Haidt book.
I guess it has to do with my Gen Z stuff. I guess we must be anxious or something.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed all the books, because like the How to Win Friends and Influence People is just a couple of topics of it. I guess it's been out there for a while. It's like the family dog is the most person who is always the person who wants to meet you the most, because they're walking up to everybody.
He's the happiest to see.
He's the happiest to see.
It's the family dog.
Yeah, and then people...
Or he's the favorite person in the house or something.
And then people love talking about themselves.
Yeah.
So like if you have a conversation with somebody,
I remember Pat teaching me that. I was such an introvert and so shy. And he goes, listen, all you have to do is ask people about themselves. They'll always love to talk about that. Yeah. Well, and then there's one final book, not on your book list, Brennan, but I know that when you gave your final presentation, they gave you one last book. And that book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I do encourage you to read that book, because that was a very powerful book for me about 25 years ago when it first came out. So it's a great book about spirituality and a lot of the topics you've touched on, how we carry around all this pain and these stories can become stories of victimhood, or they can be places that you heal and you can learn from them. And then you are freer as you go out into the world to be that kind
Yeah.
of person in the world. Well, I'm going to let us wrap up. Is there anything that we haven't, I know there's so much we haven't touched on, but is there
Yeah.
anything that you wanted to share that we haven't touched on here today?
No, I would definitely. There was of your followers out there. The one book, like I said, I think a lot of people need to read is the American Mind book, because it
Yeah.
definitely made me understand some of the political world and kind of not be so much of a voice, but just kind of sit back and realizing this is kind of how some people think,
Mm-hmm.
and how to just kind of observe, so to say, and give you a different viewpoint. Like I said, there's also a bunch of stuff we didn't talk about. My journal, like I said, we could probably go on for a long time.
Well, will you come back
Yeah.
over spring break, maybe?
Maybe, we'll see.
We'll
see what's
see.
in it for me. So.
What is in it for you, Brinkowski? You never know.
Never know.
You're just making deposits in that identity capital.
Yeah, hopefully I'll have read this old book when I get back. And so,
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
yes, ma'am.
It's been a pleasure having you at home over the holidays, and wish you well in your final semester at College of Charleston.
I
Brennan.
appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for being a subscriber and a listener of the podcast. I cannot tell you, I've had so many people walk up to me over the holidays and say, I want you to know, I love your podcast. I've just started listening to it. So-and-so shared it with me, or I'm sharing it with so-and-so. And it just means the world to me, because if I don't have Brennan here, I have Ethan behind the desk and the cameras,
Yeah,
but it's
hopefully,
a pretty lonely thing to
we
talk
can't-
into the void,
I'm trying
Brennan.
to get Christopher and Dad to come on
Yeah,
here. So
they'll have to come
we'll
on
see.
here. But it really does mean the world to me when I hear that this podcast means something to you and it's touched your life. And so because of that, I just want to say thank you, and also remind you to just the easiest thing to do is to send this to a friend and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you, and forward this podcast to a friend. And then maybe we'll just continue to let it ripple out and do the work that it's supposed to do in the world. So thank you for being here. Love you, Brinkowski.
Love you too.
Thank you, Ethan. And the rest of our production crew here at Get Up Productions.
'Cause I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities. The left and the right and some faith in the fight, and your courage is all you